everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Shields Live. It's great to be back. I guess I've been gone a couple weeks, a little vacation. Last week was our dime event. I appreciate everybody who joined us for the dime event. But we're back. I'm back. Jan's always been here. So she's here today to, talk about some features on a couple of different machines. It's kind of we call it like a stamping or stippling stamps that is available on a number of different machines. So we'll talk about that. It's the Stellaire, the Destiny, the Dream Machine, as well as the Solaris and the Luminaire. So again, a wide variety of different machines that this will apply to. Also wanted to mention that Brother does have a spring kind of a gift guide going, a lot of different I think some rebates, some freebies. So we have these at the store. Also, we'll put a link to the electronic version after the show. But again, thank you again for coming every Wednesday and sharing, and we love hearing from you. We hope that I think you're getting something out of it. I tend to talk to everybody that comes in that sees it, and it seems like everybody takes at least something away every week. So we're thrilled to do that for you. But yeah, sit back, relax, ask some questions. I'm gonna let Jan take it away. I'll pop back over at the end just to say hey, and also hey, happy spring. It's nice to have nice weather again. And man, my hair is everywhere. Sorry, I got my hair cut today, and this is not my style, but I guess my barber wanted me to try something new. So wow. Anyway, I will turn it over to Jan. Again, thanks for coming, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hi, everybody. So how is everybody this afternoon? Oh, we got some people coming in. Just a second. I'm going to find my comments. Oh, there we go. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Judy. So we got people coming in. These are really fun to do. And so what I'm doing with these is sort of the stuff that we did like in Explore Club and Dream Club that we were having in the store. So Tim wanted me to ask people, so in the comments, so remember to comment, share, and like, okay, the post when this is done. But he also said, well, if you have ideas of things that you would like to hear about or see, please comment in the comments below this video on Facebook so that I have some more ideas. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to do some of the things we did in like Dream Club and Explore Club because some of those were not videoed. And I thought people would benefit from seeing it again and having a video that they could refer back to. So that's what I've been doing. Okay. Hi, Colleen. All right. So today we're going to talk about the automatic stippling key, the stippling key and the stamp key. And those are on quite a few of the machines. So if you give me a second here, I'm going to turn my camera around to the other camera. Oh, golly. Let's see here. Get the right one. And microphone. Okay. Is everybody still hearing me okay? Looks like you're hearing me. So I'm on the right phone, or the right camera and the right microphone. Okay. So, hello. All right. So this feature is actually on quite a few of the machines. It's on the Dream Machine and Destiny. So those were the older machines. Okay, so it's on there. It's also in the Luminaire and the Solaris. It's on the Stellaire, which is the Brother, and the Altaire, which is the Baby Lock, and then the Baby Lock Meridian. So this is a function that's called in the Dream. The Dream Machines and the Luminaires had these books that were really cool. And so I still like these books. This is the Dream Machine playbook. This is my older one. I just kept it. So this one was called Automatic Stippling. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. And we're also going to talk about the stamp key. And then I'll tell you a couple of the machines have a couple more options. So that this machine doesn't. Now this is the Brother Stellaire that I'm going to use today. I kind of like Mickey Mouse, so I wanted to use a Disney machine. So I am using a Stellaire today to do this. So okay. So what we're going to do is let's talk about the automatic stippling first. I like to make like little wall hangings and different things. And did you know that all you have to do is touch a button on one of these machines and you can make a wall hanging that's completely stippled. So you can see my little Mickey Mouse here. This is a pretty good size wall hanging. It's about 14 inches long. Okay, this is a big Mickey. And then I stippled around him. So he's all quilted, and I quilted through the back. See, you can see the stippling on the back. Okay, and I'll tell you how I sewed these. So I did Mickey, and here's Minnie. So here's Minnie. I did her the same way. Okay, and there's a lot of different settings that you can use, and we're just going to go through some of that. It's very easy. This works with any design, one that you bring in or one that you bring that's in the machine. So you don't have to just use the ones in the machine. I'm going to use ones in the machine today, and I'm actually going to use a couple that I've got on a stick over here too. So you don't have to have it in the machine. It can be on a stick also. Okay. Is there a playbook for the Meridian? No, I don't think so, Judy. I don't know that they've ever done one for this series of machine. The playbooks were actually, there might be an inspirational guide for that machine. I would have to check. Baby Lock has inspirational guides. Brother has the playbooks. But I don't know that they've ever made a playbook for the Stellaire series. Okay. Hi, Judy. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit. It's really easy to do. And I'm not really going to sew today, but I was going to show you how I sewed these little wall hangings. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into embroidery. Okay. And this is really easy. I mean, this looks really hard, but it is actually very easy to do. And there's a couple of buttons. And I remember when I first got my machine, I was a little bit confused about how the buttons worked, and now I understand them much better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in this case, I would like to do Mickey and Minnie. Okay, so I'm going to go to my Mickey Mouse over here, and like I said, this can be done with any design in the machine or with ones that are outside of the machine, and we'll do that in a minute too. So I'm going to go get Mickey. So let's go get Mickey here. Here's Mickey, and it's number 3. Okay, so I just brought him up, and I'm going to set him just like I was going to sew him, okay? And when I get to the editing screen on the machine, I'm going to hit edit, and there's a couple of really cool buttons here. This button here, I'm going to use my mouse so I don't have to keep sticking my hand in front of the screen. I have a mouse hooked up to the machine, just so you know. You can do that with the Stellaires and the Meridians and the Altaires too. So these are the 2 buttons we're going to talk about today. This is the stippling button. Okay, so if I click on that button now, another little screen is going to pop up in front of that. Now, the thing that's different between the stamp key and the stippling key is that the stippling key is tied to a hoop size. Okay, so that's the difference between the 2 of them. So the stippling key, which I use, which is the one, let me go back so you can see it, the one that looks like stipples, okay? That one is tied to a hoop size. So what it's going to do, ask me first, is it's going to ask me to choose my hoop size. So in this case, that's the size I used was the 9.5 by 14. I used the big hoop, and that's how I got this nice big wall hanging, okay? And then the next thing it's going to ask me is how far away from the item in the middle that I want my stippling. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my page, and let's see what did I use? I used I made it a little ways away. So I didn't want it to come right up to Mickey. I wanted to back it off so that there was just a little space, maybe about not quite a 1/4 of an inch. I just wanted it to move away. So what I did is I made my distance here, and I just moved it away from the edges of my Mickey Mouse. Okay, so there'll be just a teeny little space. Let me get this out here for you so you can see it. So here's the little spaces. You can see there's just a little space between Mickey and the stippling, okay? All right, so I did 0.8, which is actually 0.2 millimeters. So it depends on if you're in millimeters or inches, and I did this in inches. And then I wanted to adjust the spacing of my stippling. So there's a lot of options here. The spacing that they used in this instruction booklet, this was from the playbook, was 0.4. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good amount apart. So let's go up to 0.4 so see what it looks like. So I'm just going to keep clicking this plus sign till I get to 0.4 inches. You know, so that's a little bit more than it's not quite a half an inch. You know, it's a little ways apart. About a third of an inch apart or so. So 0.4. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to go to 0.4. Okay. And then I'm going to hit preview because then it'll show me on the screen what it looks like. So if I hit preview, then it shows me what the stippling looks like. So see, this is pretty open. Okay. This is pretty open then. And when I looked at this, I thought that some of the stippling seemed kind of long down here around his feet and stuff at that size. So I decided to go a little bit smaller with mine. So let's go back and see what it looks like. The setting I actually used was about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to hit the negative sign till I get back to about 0.24 or 0.25. Let's see. I think I used 252. There we go. 0.252. And let's preview that and see what that looks like. And that made me more stipples. Okay. And it looked a little bit more fluid or something to me. And you wouldn't have to have that much stippling, but I liked my stipples small. So I thought that was pretty. I liked that. So you can kind of go anywhere you want with this. This is something that you can play with the spacing down here. That's how far the stipples are apart. And then the distance from the item that you're stippling around. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about this particular function is if you have a Luminaire or a Solaris, I'm going to click cancel for a second. When you click this button right here that has the stipples on it, right up here at the top of the screen, and they are not on this particular model, there will be a couple of more tabs up here. And if you have a Solaris or a Luminaire, you will also have the ability to use the Echo quilting. And Echo quilting is basically, I got a picture of it here. I got my this is my Luminaire playbook. And I can show you and it's called automatic Echo quilting. So the Echo quilting, you can see, is the lines that echo the design. Okay, see how those echo that? So that's also available on the Solaris and the Luminaire. Okay, but then if you've got the upgrade or the Luminaire or Solaris 2, there'll be a second little tab right here that actually lets you access the designs that are in Design Center. Remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about Design Center and IQ Designer, and there's a bunch of decorative stitches in there. So you can actually use this function, the stippling function, with those on those machines. But that is only available on the Luminaire and the Solaris. So if you have one of those, you may see a couple of extra tabs right here, and then you can choose which one you want. This particular model only lets me stipple, which is fine, because we're going to talk about using the stamp key so we can use the decorative stitches too. Okay, so let's see. We're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and change our numbers back here. I'm going to move this away just a little bit again. I'm going to leave my 9.5 by 14 hoop in there, and then I'm going to go up to 0.252. I'm just going to leave, make that just a little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to preview it again. So there's my stippling around my Mickey Mouse. This is tied though to my 9.5 by 14 hoop. And I'm going to click OK. All right. So now, as you can see, we're ready to embroider. Now, the way I did these, I wanted to tell you how I actually sewed these out, because I also added another function that a lot of these machines have to do the to do the sewing. I use the basting function, and that is something that is in the next screen. So I'm going to hit the embroidery, so like we're ready to sew it. Okay. But I need to add a basting stitch. So what I wanted to do is I want to lay I'm going to hoop in my hoop a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer. And then I'm going to lay a piece of batting in there and a piece of fabric on top, like I did my white fabric for the topping. And then it's going to sew out a basting stitch just to hold everything down to the stabilizer. But I need to put that in. So I can put that in with the machine. I can go up to layout or edit. If you have one of the older machines, this would also say edit here. So it depends on which machine you have. And then look, here's the basting stitch. This is the basting stitch right here, the one with the flower with the little square around it. So I'm just going to click that. And it adds a line around the outside edge. The one thing I want to make sure of, though, is that my basting stitch is as far out as I can get it. So I'm going to check my settings. I'm going to go up to the settings page here. And I think it's on page either 8 or 9. Let's see here. Yeah, page 8 on this machine, the embroidery basting distance. So what I want it to be like right on top of the design. And in this case, I have it set at 0 then, because I want it to be right on top of the design. But of course, on this particular instance, right on top of the design means right on the outside edge of that stippling that I put in, that it goes all the way around. Okay. So when I went to hoop this, I brought my hoop over here so you can see how I did it. I'm not going to sew it. I just wanted you to see. Okay. So I may have to rearrange this camera a little bit. So I'm going to pull this back. So here's my 9.5 by 14 hoop. Okay. And I have hooped in the hoop. No show mesh is a basting stitch with, I'm not sure what you meant, Margaret. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Sorry. So I have hooped my no show mesh stabilizer in here. Okay. Then what I did before I started sewing is I have a piece of batting that I cut to fit my hoop. Okay. And it was about, I don't know. It's about 12 by 16 or something like that. And then I have a piece of white. This is just some scrap fabric I had here, so don't mind what it looks like. Okay. Then I had my piece of fabric that I'm going to lay on top of my batting. Like that. Okay. And then I'm going to put it in the machine and I'm going to do step number 1. So if I get rid of layout over here on the Brother machine on edit with the flower on it, it is on, yes, it is in edit. Margaret, that is correct. It is on the edit screen under edit. So if I return, it's the screen behind this one. Okay. So let me try to get back here. It's a little hard to get this camera organized so that I don't get a glare, but on the arm, it seems to do pretty good. Okay. So if I get rid of click on this. So see, the first thing, when you add a basting stitch, the first thing that happens is the basting stitch. Okay. So I have the basting stitch first. That's the first thing it's going to stitch out. It's going to stitch all of this stuff down to my hoop that I just put in here, all the fabric, the batting to the stabilizer. Okay. Then it's going to sew out my Mickey, the whole thing. And then this is a pretty big design. It's 71,000 stitches. It takes a while to stitch this out because he's pretty big. Okay. So that's why I didn't want to do this in class, because obviously we wouldn't have enough time. So then I sew out Mickey. I have bobbin thread in the bobbin, and I'm just using my standard embroidery thread on top. Okay. And then right before I do the last step, so let's go forward to the last step so you can see. Here's all the Mickey parts. This one's kind of a big one, so he kind of does it in like sections. And there's his head. Okay, then the very last thing that's going to sew is going to be the stippling. Before I sewed the stippling. What I did is I took my hoop out then. So let me turn my camera for a second. I took my hoop out of the machine. I'll just take this out so you can see what I'm going to do. I turned it over and I put a piece of backing on the back of the hoop and taped, or I use fabric glue stick on the back usually, and you can use tape, but I often have tape come off. And then I put that on the back of the hoop, and then I did the stippling so that the stippling then was through all the layers of the fabric, and that's how it made it look like this then. So let me put this down here. So that's how I got this look. So see, I sewed Mickey with just the batting, and you could put another piece of tearaway underneath. You could just float a piece of tearaway underneath. This does have a lot of stitches, but I didn't. Batting also acts as a stabilizer, so the batting actually worked quite well here. So I didn't put a piece of tearaway, but you could. But if you look in the back, see, the only thing that's showing in the back is the stippling. Okay, so the section in the center where Mickey is not quilted through, but it's quilted around Mickey. All right, so that's how I did that. And then I just trimmed it to 1/4 of an inch away from my basting stitch. And then I just put a little binding on it. Okay, so see how easy that was just to make a little sample. I love Mickey and Minnie, so I wanted to do both of them. So I did, here's Mickey. Okay. And let's show you one more quick time so you can see what Mickey would look, or Minnie would look like done like this. So I'm going to hit the home key up here. Let me switch back a little bit here. Okay, and we go back to embroidery, and then we're going to go pick Minnie. So let's go get the Minnie Mouse. And here she is. Okay, and then I'm going to set her. And now I'm going to go get that that stippling. So the stippling key is under Edit, and it's the little stippling icon here. I think maybe what Margaret was asking is on the Dream Machine. It's kind of a flower design. It's a little bit different icon. So I think that's what you were maybe referring to, Margaret, is a slightly different icon. And it still has like the stipples in it or around it. So as I remember, it was a slightly different icon. Okay, so then I'm going to get my stippling icon. Okay, and then I'm going to choose my hoop. Again, I'm going to put her in that 9.5 by 14 hoop. Okay, and then I'm going to do my distance again. I made these the same. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I got to find my measurement here. Second. I did it at 0.08. Okay. And then I did the spacing at 252. So I'm just going to bring this up a little bit. It's about 1/4 of an inch. Okay. And then let's preview Minnie. So you can see this is very easy. I mean, it's not hard at all to do this. And there's my Minnie. Okay. So she's all ready to sew. I'm going to click OK. I'm ready to sew her. And then I'm going to click embroidery as if I'm going to sew her. Okay. And then I want to put, again, the basting stitch around her. So I'm going to go I'm going to go to layout, and then like the Dream Machines and Destinies still say edit here, just so you know. And then I'm going to get my basting stitch, put that around, and I had already chosen 0 for so it's right around the outside edge of my stippling. Okay. And that will sew first. And I sewed her out the same exact way as I did Mickey. And then I put a little backing on her. So her backing's different. You can see the stippling through the backing. Okay. So these were really fun to do. So these were a couple little fun projects to do. And there's some really cute other designs in here to do. You know, you can do any designs you want, but I like to make little wall hangings because people love Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Okay, so here's those 2 wall hangings. So that is the automatic stippling or the stippling key. Okay, again, that one is tied to a hoop size. So like if I choose, let's go back again. If I go back again to that, where I was, oops, second here. I got to take let's just go back to the beginning. it lets me choose all those different hoop sizes. So let's choose maybe a smaller design here. Let's see. Oh, here's I love Donald. I love Donald. So let's do Donald. He's probably in a 5x7 hoop. Okay. And I'm going to do edit again. And I'm going to do the stippling key. Okay. So now that big hoop, he's really small in that big hoop, right? So let's go ahead and see if I click on these buttons here, it gives me all these other options. So let's see if we can find the 5x7 hoop. So the 5x7 would be maybe more appropriate for Donald. Okay. And let's see. And then I could do the same thing here. I could decide on my distance and my spacing here. Okay. And I'll click preview. And there he is. Okay. So we have different options with different hoop sizes. There's all these different hoop sizes. You know, there's actually quite a few hoops that are available. The 6x6 would work well for him too, because the 6x6, he is pretty small actually. So that 6x6 hoop would work really well. So I know a lot of people that have actually done this and have made a little quilt out of all these little blocks. So there's a bunch of really cute Disney designs in most of the machines. So, and like I said, you don't have to use Disney. I just like Disney, and that's what I wanted to use today. But that is how you'd use the stippling key. So that is one way you can quilt or stipple around designs. You can also use that around, let's say, a design that we want to bring in from outside. So I was going to go grab one from outside. I've got one on my stick over here. So I'm going to go down here to my USB stick. And this is one that I did for a little project, and we're going to talk about this again also. But then here's my little design. And then if I go to edit with this one and the stippling key, then I can go, let's see, go down to a smaller hoop. Let's see, maybe a 5x7 for that one. That looks good. You could change your distance a little bit and the spacing of your stippling. So this is a design that's a Kimberbell design. So this is not in the machine. Okay, and then we can look at that one. So see, there's the stippling around that. Okay, so but it is tied, as you can see up here, to the different hoop sizes. Okay, all right. So these are the two samples I did with that. Now let's say we want to use the decorative fills instead. And I love the decorative fills that are in these machines. And so there's a couple of ways to do this. And I'm going to show you one way right now. This one here, this design, actually, I did this Winnie the Pooh. This one's done with the decorative stitch that's from Design Center. And Winnie the Pooh, this is one that I purchased years ago. It was in my Quattro years ago, and then I bought it so I'd have it. I just love this. Big Winnie, but it's hard to find it. It's not in anything anymore. So we're going to use a different design when we do this. But there's two ways to use those decorative stitches. If you have the Solaris or Luminaire, you can use it just like we did the stippling key here. Because remember, I told you that those tabs were up here. Okay, well, if you don't have that, you can still use it. And you can use it a couple different ways. So I'm going to show you two different ways to use those fills. Okay, so let's start by, let's go in and grab another design. So let's see, I think I used another one of these Winnie the Poohs. They were really cute. I think it was this little guy. Okay, he was pretty small, but we'll put him in a small hoop, and I'm going to set him. Okay, now the other key makes a stamp. In other words, it makes an outline around your embroidery design. And it will work with any embroidery design, whether it's in the machine or out of the side of the machine. Okay. It is also under edit, and it is right next to the stipple key. The stipple key is here, and this is the stamp key. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click the flower. I'm going to tell it how far away from my design I want the stamp to be. And as I remember, I moved it out just a little bit. So let's move it out. Let's see, set the distance. Yeah, I think I moved it out just a little bit. So we'll move it out maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. Okay, So there's our stamp. So you can see there's an outline around Winnie, okay? And then I'm going to hit memory. And what that's going to do is it's going to save that outline for me. Okay, so I'm going to click memory. And it tells me recall from my Design Center stamp pattern list. Okay. So I'm basically showing you how I did this next sample. So I'm going to click OK. So that's all you'd need. All right. So if I had brought the design in from a stick, I could have done the same thing. Okay. And we're going to do another option at the end with that. Okay. So here's my Winnie the Pooh. Now, I would like to add the stippling around him. Okay. So I'm going to click add because I can add from Design Center. Did you know that? That's really cool. We can add from Design Center. So I'm going to add, just like we could go in and add lettering or add another design, I can also add from Design Center. So here's Design Center or IQ Designer if you have a Baby Lock. Okay. What I want to do then is I can do this two different ways. I can go in and I can get my stamp. My stamp, this is the stamp symbol right here. And we talked about this just a little bit. This also has a bunch of shapes. I call it the shape tool too, but it also this is where the stamps are. So remember the little flower that we clicked? Here's the flower. Okay. And oh, you know what? I used a different one. Let's use this little bit bigger one. Let's go back. I used this little bigger design and it worked really nice in the hoop. So let's try this other one. I forgot I used this other one. This one. I used number 5, which is like all of the Winnie the Pooh characters together. Okay, this is a little bit bigger one. So let's do it again. We'll hit set and we're going to make the stamp of this. So edit. I'm going to click the stamp key. Okay, and then I made the distance maybe about 1/4 inch. And you don't have to move this out. You can leave it right up to it. It just depends on what you want it to look like. And I'm going to hit memory again. Okay, so we just backed up and we're going to do it again. Again, it's in Design Center. Okay, I'm going to click OK. Here's my design still. I'm just going to leave it on the screen for this example. And I'm going to click Add because I want to go back to Design Center and get that stamp. Okay, now this example, I'm going to show you one way and the next one we'll do it a different way. Okay, so I'm going to go get my stamp. So here's my stamp key. And this method is also tied to a hoop size because I had a particular size I wanted this to be. So I chose a hoop because in the stamps, if you look above here, see, there's a hoop up here. And if I click on that, I can choose a hoop size. So again, I'm tied to a hoop size. So I'm just going to grab my 9.5 by 9.5 because this one fit really nicely in that size hoop and click OK. So then it gives me the representation of my 9.5 by 9.5 hoop here. Then I went back to the stamp key and we need to get the shape around our little design. So I'm going to go back to the flower this time. And here's our little grouping of Winnie the Pooh characters. And I'm going to click OK. So now I've got that shape. And then this is the size of my hoop out here. Okay, so we know that the hoop is exactly the size I wanted it. But I need to fill this area in here. I want that to have a decorative fill. So to get to the fills, and we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, this set of buttons, the second set of buttons is the fills, and the top set of buttons is the outlines. Okay, so we want a fill. So we're going to go down here and the piece of paper is the properties. So I'm just going to click on the piece of paper and it gives me options of just a standard old fill, a stipple, so I can still do stippling in here, or the decorative fill. So I'm going to click on the decorative fills and I'm going to select. And let's see, I think I used the circles. So here's the circles. And this one has, this machine, depending on what machine you have, you'll have some different one. This one has 15 different fills. Mine has like 40. So it depends on what you have. okay, for a machine. So let's choose number 5, and I'm going to click OK. And I think red is fine. It doesn't matter what color it is. I'll just click OK. All right. Now we need to get the fill in there. So in order to fill this area, I need my paint pot. So I'm going to go grab the little paint pot or the fill tool, and I'm just going to click over here in the area of my hoop and between my little outline that I stamped. So I'm going to click there, and look, we have the little circles. That's the fill that I used on this one. Okay, and then I'm going to click next because I want to be able to do some things to this. So there are some options also with this. So I can go down here and I can tell it I want it to be smaller. You know, if I click on here, the size of the circles are at 100%. I could go down or up. Okay. The next one is the angle. So some of the designs, sometimes you want them to be angled or this way. You might want to change the orientation. So I would click here and I would give a different direction for that design. I'm just going to leave mine at default. And then the last thing is an outline. And what that means is that the outline will be all the way around the design. Can you see that outline? That's just outlining my design. And I kind of liked that with this particular example because the circles looked kind of funny when they were kind of ending like up next to him. And I just thought that looked kind of weird. So I just put the outline all the way around him. So I'm going to leave that on right here. And you can turn it off. There's times when I turn it off. Okay. But we're going to leave it on. And then I'm going to click set. So those are the 3 options that you have there. And now I want to look at it and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to say, okay. So you just hit next and okay. And then look, there is our little circles in our 9.5 by 9.5 inch hoop, because I tied this one to a hoop. You don't have to, because I'm going to do that next. And then if I click set, this is where the magic is. And okay, look, there's our design. Remember, we hit add. So here's the design that we did that, and it just plops right down on top of that design. And now we're ready to sew it out. And I sewed this one out the exact same way that I sewed out the other 2, except I used a decorative fill. And in this particular one, I used the 9.5 by 14 hoop because this was a bigger design as well. Okay, so isn't that cool how that you can tie this also to the hoop sizes. But I often use this decorative fill function and the stamp key without wanting to tie it to a hoop size. So there is a way to do that also. So that's what I'm going to show you here. Let me show you my examples here. So I use the stamp key quite often because I like to quilt in my hoop. And I did both of these little I got a couple cute little table runners here. I'll show you. So let me turn this camera a little bit. Okay. So here's a couple of my little table runners that I quilted in the hoop with Design Center. But I had a certain size I had a certain size block that I needed it to fit in. So I can also tell the machine I want it in this size of square, okay? And I did this piece here, this whole one piece. I had a bigger hoop so I could do the whole center section all together. And this was a decorative fill in my machine. And I used the stippling on the ends. And then this one, I did a couple different things. So I did stippling around the Enjoy the Little Things. I did a decorative fill up here at the top, and then I did a stipple in the little, the tumbler blocks. Okay, and then I had another little thing down here I had to do. And then I did this one. But these were specific sizes. They weren't just the hoop size. So this one I had to tell the machine how big I wanted it to be. So let's do an example here. So let's talk about the little watermelon. We'll do a little watermelon. So I'll show you how I did this. It's really easy. And we need a stamp of this embroidery design. So what I do is I have that over here on my stick. I'm just gonna, there we go. So let's go back to embroidery. Now this time I'm gonna set that design. So let me turn my camera a little bit more again. This little icon here will get me to my stick, of course. And here is my watermelon. Okay. So that's the embroidery design that I use to create my watermelon here. And this is already embroidered. So let's say that I have this whole top already embroidered, and then I want to sandwich it and quilt it, because see, I wanted the quilting to go all the way through the back. This is what I do with this. Okay. So here's the, you can see that the quilting's through all the layers. So I have my regular backing on here. All right. So it's going to be done this kind of the same way as the other ones, but this one is sandwiched all together, and I have a specific size that I need. Okay, so here is my design, and I'm just going to set it just like we did Mickey and Minnie. And then I'm going to go to edit again because I need a stamp. Okay, because I need an outline of this design. So I'm going to click my stamp key. Okay, and it's going to put the line around my design. Now, normally when I do these, to be quite honest, I leave it at 0. I leave the distance at 0 so that it's right on top of the design, because it has a natural tendency, as you can see, to be just slightly away from it anyway. So I usually leave it at 0. Okay, so I'm going to click memory. Remember, we had memory, so we have a stamp of this. Okay. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm done with this part, because remember, this is already done. I've already embroidered this. I have my table runner, my top all sewn together. I have my batting in it, and I've got it pinned, and I've got my backing on, and I just want to quilt this now. Okay, so this is how I do this. It's really cool because I'm not tied to a hoop size. I can tell my machine how big a block I want. Okay, so we're done with this. I've got my stamp. I know exactly how big it is and everything. Okay, then I'm going to go back to my design center, because that's where that stamp is, remember? Okay, now this is where I get my ruler out, and I need to know how big my square is. So you're going to measure your block. So this block finished at 6 by 8. Okay, it was about 6 by 8. I think so. I'm trying to measure carefully. I'm not being very careful about it. Let's see, 6 by 8. It's just a little under that, so we may choose just a slightly under that, but it's about 6 by 8. Okay, so let's draw our block. To draw the block in Design Center, I'm going to use the stamp tool or the shape tool, and I want to use an outline. And the first thing I think I'm going to go back up one. You can choose what kind of line you want from the very get-go before you draw anything, and I often like to do that. So remember, the top set of boxes is for the lines, and the bottom is for the fills. So the top part, I just need an outline, the size of my block that I'm going to use. Okay, so I'm going to click on the piece of paper in the top set of blocks, and I'm going to tell it that I don't want that line to sew. I just need a placement line. So I can tell it no sew, which is the squiggles with the red line through it. That means it will not sew. All right, and I'm just going to click OK. But it'll still draw my placement block on here. So, and I think my block was this way. So we'll do it 8 inches tall and 6 inches wide. Okay. So let's go get the square that we were going to get. So here's our outline. First tab is for outlines. Second tab is for fills. Third tab is for an outline and a fill. So I just need an outline, and I want my square, and I'm going to click OK. So here's my outline. Okay. I'm going to size it, and I would like it to be 6 inches wide. I'm going to do it turned on end because that's the way my design was. So I'm going to do 6. Oops. Got a little overzealous there, didn't I? So I usually go down a little bit below the actual size. So I'm going to go about 5.95, and then we want it to be just a little under 8. So let's bring it up to 8 inches tall. Oops, got a little overzealous again, didn't I? Let's try 7.95. Okay. A little bit more. Come on, there we go. Okay. So there's my representation of my finished block laying this way. Okay, and I think maybe my little thing might have been this way. Okay. Oops, second. I freaked out my machine. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to click OK. Now I want to get the stamp. Remember, we made our stamp. This is my block. So this has nothing to do with a hoop size. We don't have a hoop that's 6 by 8. I made my block. Okay. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab that stamp just like we did before. Okay. And here's my little watermelon. Yep, it's this way. So it's this way. Okay. So we're going to grab the little watermelon that I made and I'm going to click OK. So there's my stamp. Now all I have to do is add my decorative fill so I can choose what I want. So I would like, let's see. So remember the bottom set of squares is for the fills. So I think I want, we'll just do stippling on this one. That's what I usually do with appliques so that my applique sticks out and not the quilting. So I'm just going to pick red's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to get the paint pot because I need to fill it. And I'm just going to click between the stamp and the outline and add my stippling. So there's the stippling. Okay. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to click next. And then here again, I have the options of what I want to do for the sizes of my stippling. Now I have a little trouble in inches. So I'm actually going to go up here to the settings key. I'm going to go to page, I think this is on page 8, and I'm going to switch over to millimeters for a minute because it helps me. And I want my stitch length to be a little longer than that. 2.0 is pretty short, so let's do 2.5. So I just clicked on that. My run pitch or my stitch length. Let's make it a little longer. Okay, I'll set that. And then this is the size of my stipple. 5 is pretty small. It seems like I usually use on these smaller things, maybe around 6 or 7. So let's try 6 millimeters. See what that looks like. We'll set it. And then the last thing here is the distance away from the edges. So it is going to leave a slight distance from the edges of my block, which is good. Okay, I usually just leave that at default. And then let's preview it and let's see what it looks like. And if we don't like it, we can go back and change the, that actually 6 looks pretty good. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'll set that. And now we're back onto the sewing side of the machine. Okay, so at this point, I don't have the ability to do that on this machine, but most of the machines, with the exception of the Stellaires and the Altaire and the Meridian, have a camera in it. And so what I did is I would hoop my sandwiched design. I would use my camera then to line this up on my finished design. Since this is already embroidered and it's not, that's the difference here, that when I quilt these, I'm going to line this up with my camera. This particular machine, and we're going to talk about this one of these days, this particular machine has an app. So I would have to line it up with the app. And the hoops have like little alignment bugs, I call them bugs, on the edges. And so it helps you to line up your designs with the camera and that. So we will do that one of these days. We'll play with the app a little bit. And I will show you also more of this quilting because I've done this a lot in Design Center, but I'll probably show you on the Luminaire or the Solaris with the camera and the projector to show you those features. So it does make it a little easier. But that is the way to use the stamp key to quilt your already finished designs. So that's what I did. I finished this whole top, sandwiched it together with my batting and my backing, just pinned it, and then I just hooped it and I here's my little design right here. And I just hooped it in there and I lined it up and I stippled my little watermelon. Isn't that cute? And then I did this one also. So this is the other one I did that way. So see how I did that? I had already had these embroidered. I made my stamp just like I showed you. Made my block, and this is probably 6 by 8 also. Okay. And then did the stippling around, enjoy the little things. This one I just drew the size of my box and just did a stipple or just did a decorative fill in it. There was no applique to go around. Okay, this one just needed to be quilted in the center. Okay, and that's what I did with this one too. This was one of the built-in decorative fills. Isn't that pretty? In the center here. So I just told the machine I wanted my square to be this big, and then I filled it and I just lined it up. Okay. So as you can see, the stippling and the stamp key are very versatile. You can use it for quilting. You can use it with built-in designs and do all the embroidery at the same time. You can add the backings so that it is quilted through. If you've already sewn your designs out, you can still use it and make your own custom squares so that you can quilt your designs that you've already done. So I like to quilt through the backings, and that's why I do most of my quilting this way, is I do it with the camera then and line it all up. Because I really like to have everything, I like to have it all quilted all the way through. And the other little wall hangings where the quilting was through it, but the actual design wasn't through it. Okay. So that is the automatic stippling key. So we talked about that. I think Tim's going to come back and say goodbye to you. And I'll just show you one more time where they are. So you just get it in the embroidery, grab your design, and we'll just grab a design here. And they are under edit. And here either this is the stippling key and that's the stamp key. And they can be, and one's tied more to the hoop size than the other. So you have a lot of options with that function in the machines. Okay. So are there any questions? Isn't that kind of a fun little thing to do? I love these little table runners. They're so much fun to make, and they work really well to do them this way because it's a small project. Okay, I think Tim's back, so we're gonna turn and get the camera back on here. Had a bunch of people here today. Just a second, let me get the camera back up. All right, any other questions, anybody? There's a little bit of delay, so it takes them a minute. All right, let me get the microphone. Okay. Alrighty.
We're back.
Yep, and he's back.
All right. Hey, again, thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate it. Again, share, like, all that stuff. We really appreciate you helping us out, get our name out there, continue to stay busy. Yeah, and also Jan and I were kind of talking, if there's anything that you guys want us to do, I mean, we can come up with a lot of different things and we will continue to do so, but please just leave a comment. If it's something we feel like we want to do or can do, we will. We want to do things that you want to see, and so you can keep asking questions and things like that. So Judy, can you purchase the Disney designs if you own 2 Brother machines? Yes, you can go to iBroidery.com. So iBroidery.com, you can go there. You will have to register. It will be linked to your particular machine. But yes, you can get the Disney designs there as long as you do have a Brother machine. So
yep, just not a Baby Lock.
Not a Baby Lock, unfortunately. Yep. So
and then somebody else did you say you sewed the squares together before quilting or separate squares? Oh no, Margaret, these were all sewn together. This one, are these the ones you were talking about? Like this is all sewn together, the whole top, and then I quilted it so that everything was quilted through. So yes, this was all sewn together already.
Hi, Sharon. Again, thanks for everything. Thanks for coming out, and we'll do it again next week. And like I said, make some suggestions. We will put a link on here to the spring gift guide. Shows you some of the different machines, accessories, things that you can get right now that Brother's promoting. And but like I said, we'll see you again next week. Have a great week.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Go Hawks.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. But goodbye.